Uh-huh.
Hello, hello. My name is Caley Rose, and this is How to Get Into Voiceover. My guest today is Lindsay McDonald. Lindsay has her BFA in musical theater from Penn State University. After college, she toured with the musical 42nd Street to Japan. Okay, we're friends, and I didn't know about that, so you best believe I'm going to ask about it, and North America. While in LA, she has done numerous stage productions, including The Producers, Singing in the Rain, and Sam Shepard's Simpatico. On camera, she has done national commercials, indie films, and TV, as well as voice commercials for Kerrygold Butter, Woodbridge Furniture Stores, and she was the live announcer for VH1's Dear Mama Mother's Day show, as well as other awesome radio and promos. I am so happy to share with you Lindsay McDonald.
Hi.
Hi.
I love that we both
Chatting with me.
when we introduce people, we always sing some kind of note in the middle of it because I'm the same way. I
See?
am, and I think my kids are starting to get embarrassed by it. They're like,
No.
"Oh, you're gonna do that again?" And I
You're
was
gonna
like,
sing.
"Much more
You don't
exciting."
even do it intentionally, right? You're just a natural
Yes.
songster.
Yes,
Yeah,
and I think that just right when you're announce people, you're like, "Doesn't anybody wanna be excited about you're entering the room?" No? Nobody?
exactly.
So, I love
Big
that you just hit a high note. That's great.
That was my biggest challenge. I mean, let's get right into it with voiceover. When I first started out in voiceover, learning how to curtail the sing-songiness of my natural speaking voice, I'm just like, what does that mean? And then I had to study that. Was that an issue for you being a singer and a musical theater performer?
Yeah, that's actually, a really good point because
Huh.
going back to the as we got into it, I mean, some of it, you get into voiceover because people are like, "Oh, you sing and you have this voice and this kinda leads to this," and so
Yeah.
that was, one way I get in, but absolutely, there is a sing-songy pattern that we can get into for sure that I had
Mhm.
to be, ear trained about it, you have, a
Mm.
different kind of ear training from singing to voiceover, so you're listening to yourself for different things, and sometimes I think that I can also get, too staccato if we wanna be, musical about it, where things get a little, and this and choppy, so I also have to be aware of that. So there's, a staccato, there's a sing-songy way of things, but then, then you learn to use it to work in your favor, right?
Huh.
Right? That's especially when it comes to something in voiceover, with promos, there is a rhythm to go with it, and if somebody is asking you to, you're watching the tape and they're asking you to, go with it, you
To
have
picture,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, you have that rhythm already in, so that leans into it, but it's a
Mhm.
different kind of ear training that you're right, that I had to, be s be self-aware,
Yeah.
which nobody really wants to listen to your voice at the beginning when you're like, "Oh, this is, awful,"
Yeah.
or what you're really listening for, so that I don't know, that's what voiceover ended up, coming back to and being like, "You need to do this kind of ear training." So,
Ha.
absolutely.
So it was ear training that got you to, I guess, in the end, you want it to be a choice. You wanna have the breadth of possibility and say,
Right.
"Okay, well, I can use my sing-songiness in
Yeah.
this type of speech, and this one I can turn it down." And so that ability to pick and choose.
Yeah, but you're right. It's a totally different animal, but at the same time, you're grateful for your musical training because it,
Yes.
just makes it easy. It also makes it more directable too. If somebody can
Yeah.
say that to you, and especially when it comes to pitch, you're like, and that was
Mhm.
something else I had to learn too, because right, we get excited and our voices are up in this high timbre, but
Yep.
sometimes nobody really wants to listen to that. Like if you're in the world,
Endlessly.
right? So you had to,
Yeah.
find, again, going back into, that comes back into, vocal placement, right? And being it's such a physical thing. I mean,
Uh,
the acting,
yeah.
absolutely, but when it comes to actually physically placing your voice in a certain way, you you right, you're like, you have to go back and listen and be like, "Oh, is that too high pitched?" And then you can even,
Uh,
watch it on the twisted wave or whatever you're using to record, and
absolutely.
watch the sound waves and be like, "Oh, that was a peak."
Yeah.
So that was just, again, another layer of things that you're like, "What else is voiceover?" Oh,
Yes.
so it's not just about your voice.
Absolutely, and when you talk about the pitch, I mean, it's like the difference between, okay, does this animated character sound 13 or
Yeah,
18 or
right.
22 or and getting into that. And even with commercials, I've found whenever it says a little bit older than I am, I find that I then turn myself off and I get very, okay, so I shouldn't have as much energy and I shouldn't have this, and it never books. ever because I'm not being myself, right?
Yeah.
Have you found that too?
Yeah, that's actually that's a great point because I
Mm,
think we get caught up in the breakdown of a voiceover of like, okay, they want this age range and they want this. And so you mentally do all those things, right? You check all those things and
mhm.
you forget about who you are and you forget
Yeah,
about what you're bringing. So then it just sounds like this. So it's a
yeah,
fine line of like having enough energy underneath for me, right? Like
yeah,
enough energy, the acting beats are there, but also not getting too high and getting right.
yeah.
There's like all those things going on in your head, and then you work
Uh-huh.
all the technical stuff out, and then you go, and then you listen and you're like, okay, throw it out and go back and do it again. Right, exactly. So I think that the energy, yeah, if I go too low and
Mm.
stay in that same place, it also right. If you put that placement lower, because it's supposed to be the older characters, sometimes you
Yeah.
have to be careful that it doesn't sound like, well, they're not interested in anything.
Yeah,
Yeah,
boring. It's
yeah.
so interesting, and then you do all this work and you read the specs, and the specs will be like, "Okay, so very conversational, but also not too conversational, and energy, but not bubbly." And you're just inundated with confusion, and you work really hard, and you record it, and then
Mhm.
you send it off into the ethers, and you never quite know,
No. You just hope that
was it
somebody listens, and
yeah.
so when anybody responds with like, "Hey, let's put a pin in her, we wanna,"
Uh,
or even any kind of or you get a callback or you book the job, you're like, "Oh, you did listen."
uh-huh.
It's always such a nice feeling. You said something that I think the bottom line, and I was, in a class the other day, but it really still goes back to specifics.
Hmm.
Right? And again, but making it yours as your choices. So
Yeah,
honor what the specs are, exactly right, but
yeah.
also be specific to who you are. And if I was having a conversation with you,
Mm,
we have a different relationship, like, right? Because I've known you.
yeah,
But if I'm so like if you're like, oh, let's talk to my best friend or let's talk like
mm.
that's a different feel. But
Yeah.
if I'm talking to someone like trying to say something to the side that I don't want the host to hear, that's a different intention, right?
Yeah,
But it just goes back to specifics and they will hear that. So that will
yeah.
come clearer than just being like, well, she said 30 to 35. And you're like,
Yeah, yeah,
that's too broad. So
exactly. I feel you on that. Okay, well, let's rewind because you did say we've been friends. I initially met Lindsay in a voiceover workout group,
yeah,
right?
that's
I
right.
think so.
Yes, yes,
Yes.
yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I was just so, enamored by you because you have the best spirit and the best talent, and I was like, "I wanna be her friend." And years later, I
Goes
succeeded.
right back to you.
I do love you.
But
You're
that's true. We did
amazing.
meet in a voiceover workout group,
Yeah.
which is also great to have, I think, to whoever who's listening about getting into voiceover.
Mm.
You have to find your groups no matter what part of life you're in,
Yes.
but and for workout groups, you wanna either sometimes find people who maybe are either, like, working pros, so who are at your level, right? And you're like, so
Mm.
that's who challenges you to be like to push you to your boundaries, right? You're not
Yeah.
just going there, but it's really like a gym workout,
Yes.
right? You go there, and if you need that, and sometimes I need that accountability to, like,
Yes.
get out of my booth or get somewhere and show up and show
Yes.
up my work and have other people listen, that's a that's a gift, and usually it's not too expensive because
Mhm.
voiceover can be expensive,
Yeah.
but the workout groups, even if you and at this point, like, thanks to COVID and everything, we can
Mhm.
do everything so virtual. So
Yeah.
even if that is a virtual accountability to get in and read, that was helpful, and
Yeah.
I think what else is good, when we were meeting too, like, you can also it helps you, like, stay updated to what's going on, right? So
Mhm.
you would bring in auditions, and I'd be like, "Oh,
Oh,
that's good."
yeah.
That's good. Oh, they had that one. Wait, I didn't get that one.
I
And
should
if you
have that one. Yeah, exactly.
you're like, I mean, obviously be professional about it and be like,
Yeah.
"Hey," contact your people and be like, "Did you get that?"
Yeah.
But also working with you, I remember specifically in the workout group, you were working on a Lion King, audition,
Oh,
which was an animated show that had
yeah.
aired. But again, that was exciting to watch your journey through that and to watch your callbacks through that and where you took the character, like,
Yeah.
we all benefited from it.
Yeah.
So that was I don't know,
It
that just
yeah.
rang it so stuck out in my head
I
of like,
appreciate that you remember that. Well, the way I got that was because another friend said, "Hey, this role exists. It's singing. Have you gotten it?" And like if Dina Sherman hadn't been
right,
that kind and that giving
yeah,
and unthreatened, I
right,
never would have even been able to say, "Oh, I got called back by Disney," and that became that opened a door to a different voiceover agent and stuff. Okay, so
absolutely.
let's rewind even more. How did you get oh, I wanna go back to the class because you said that you're in a class now, and I do wanna point that out because, like, Lindsay has been working for a very long time, she has that airing spots, and she's a seasoned professional, and yet she's still working on her craft. So are you
Yeah.
doing a workout group right now or, like, casting
So
director
I went,
workshop?
and it definitely goes in waves,
Mm,
it ebbs and flows of like, oh, well, these, you go to different people. I went back to um some workshops because I
mm,
needed to meet some new people, and because
mhm,
again the industry is changing, there's lots of changes going on right now with some agencies,
mm,
and I'm currently looking for different representation. So and people love to, especially voiceover agents, they love to swap, right? They love to
ah,
interchange, and you're like, oh, you moved here and then this person was here, oh, all of a sudden they're here. And
yeah,
sometimes they also have certain agents have good reputations that you want to work with. So, like,
yeah,
I'm following someone right now and trying to get in different ways.
ah,
And then also, like, so I went back to some classes and took a video game class last week. That
good,
is not always my strong point. For some
uh,
reason, my authoritative voice doesn't always sound authoritative.
not a lot of female soldiers.
Right, right, all the civilians, I mean, if you ask my family, I feel like I sound authoritative, um, but again, I get it's a gift because it's virtual. I can conveniently
Oh,
just sign
nice.
in and be in that kind of environment.
Huh,
I think it's just good to know what is current, and if
yeah,
it's something look, video games are something that I have to work on because it's not something that flows into my inbox very
yeah,
easily. But on the other hand, I went back and did, like, promos and commercials, and that's something that is my kind of niche right now. And again,
mm,
that's okay to work on both strengths, but again,
mm,
I if it can fit in my schedule, I do it. I think that sometimes people go into voiceover and be like, "I have to do everything."
yeah,
And
audiobook and video
yeah,
games and
yeah, it's a lot. It is also okay to be like, "You know what? My niche is animation, and this is exactly what I wanna do," and
mm,
become really good at it. That's okay
yeah.
to, be so good that you outact everybody else.
Ha ha, yeah, that's
And
really
so,
great.
um, yeah, so anyways, so whatever, needless to say, yes, if I can fit it in, I
Yeah,
fit it in.
you're
So,
amazing. You're doing so much. Okay, so how did you get
nobody
started?
realizes how much we all are doing, but go ahead.
Yes. Yeah,
Mhm.
I mean, it's like when you start saying it, you're like, "Oh, I did this the other day," and I'm just like, "Oh, okay, n I should be doing that." You know? So it's good that we have this inspiration, but also
Right,
don't get down on yourself
right,
for
don't
things that you
comparison.
haven't done yet. Yeah,
Yes.
comparison is what is it? The
Mhm.
thief of all happiness?
Yeah, yeah,
Whatever that quote is.
social. I got you.
I should
Nope,
change the title to Kaylee Botch's quotes. Okay, so how did you get started initially? You were a singer, you were an actress. Did musical theater come first, and then did someone tell you you had a fantastic voice?
yeah,
How?
I know, right? Let me think, quickly. Yes, I knew at 12 I wanted to be an actress, and I told my
Mm.
parents, and they kind of were like, "Okay."
Aw.
Yes, musical theater, that's what I ended up majoring in,
Mm.
because I've always danced and singing also too and piano, I kinda grew up like that. And my grandparents are musicians, but my parents are not. Like, nobody else exists in the world of musical or
Ah.
performance except for them. And so that's kind of where it's hooked.
Mm.
And then did musical theater, right, did the whole audition process for college, which is changing all the time and so hard.
Yeah.
So, for anybody who's doing that, props to you. It really is.
Yeah.
It's really hard. Um, but yeah, I got fortunate enough, did that, graduated, and then yes, the funny story about that is that my senior year of college, I was like, "Oh, I have to get a job after
Hmm.
this." So, where Penn State is like the middle of Pennsylvania, so it's like 4
Mm.
hours from New York. I happened to be in and out of New York on the weekends. I would just drive up for those cattle calls.
Oh,
Like during the week, because it would take 4 hours, and I'd get up at 5 in the morning, and I would drive in and stand in line and whatever.
determined.
The
Yeah.
things you do when you're younger, in your 20s. So I had gotten a call back for Beauty and the Beast for a summer stock, and so I was there dancing,
Oh,
and then I was in the bathroom, and someone said, they're just looking for the Beast." And I was like,
what?
"What?" And she was like, Yeah, that's what the rumor is, that, like, all of this is just kind of like, because they have to, but really, like, that's what they're looking for, and I was like,
Not cool.
"Oh, shoot, what am I doing?" And
Not
so but
cool.
then across the hall was the auditions for 42nd Street, and I
Uh,
was like, "Huh." So I walked in with my binder, I was like, "Are you still seeing people?" And they're like, "Yeah." And
huh,
nobody it was so crazy, and they were on there, so I walked across and I sang my 16 bars. Here's my up tempo, here's
oh
my
my
ballad,
goodness.
as we do in traditional theater. And they were
Mm.
like, "That's great." They made me sing. And then every that week, every other day, I drove in and back to New York um, from a callback for the dance callback for this, like this. It went all the way.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
so anyways, that's how I got it, and
Ah,
it was just, again, sometimes those moments are like, when things are right, they flow, and that's how you go.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and then yeah, 4 days after I graduated, I was in New York with rehearsals.
Oh
So it
my
was like it
gosh, you
really was
lucky duck.
look,
You
right.
hardworking duck, excuse me.
No, but also there is a sense of the right, your hard work pays off for your luck, but there
Yeah,
really is a sense of it was, false advertising. I thought that was like, "That's how you do it. What could be so
yeah.
hard?" But I ended up honestly, this is so crazy. I don't wanna date how long it's been, but
Nope.
I'm having a reunion with that particular cast, next month, and it
Huh.
really was a gift. I was very, very fortunate. The people who were on my tour, I'm truly are some of my best friends,
Aw,
and when we went to Japan, so the tour went to Japan for a
okay.
summer.
Okay.
Right? And so, again, I think that, like, take the opportunity if
Mhm.
take that's always an adventure, right? If you have
Yeah,
the opportunity and you, take the adventure that life is giving you,
yeah.
go see the other country. I mean, I was in a I've never right, I was, like, 22 and never been anywhere,
Oh my
um,
gosh.
and over there, the culture really embraces musical theater, so it was like, I don't know, we had all the equity perks, and so we were these huge stages, the treatment was amazing, everybody was
Um,
professional, it was the kindest culture from my experience, and, it was crazy, it was so
I
hot, so don't
blew
go
up.
during the summer, but go back to see the and so that was like it was really beautiful, it was fun and exciting, and we
Mhm.
did the typical how many shows a week and went to 4 different parts of the country, and then we went to the North American tour, and that was like back to reality, this is a bus and truck tour. This is right, so once again, you just kind of, but again, what's so interesting is that we didn't have, smartphones back then.
Oh.
Like, I'm so old, right? But I think it's a different so to do it again and probably also voiceover at that point wasn't introduced to me. So, right,
Mm,
so I'm still, like, still singing and dancing because that's what I was trained to do.
uh,
Um and voiceover wasn't introduced at that point.
yeah.
So I would say if like nowadays, everything is so mobile, right? You're taking
Mm,
your laptop or your recordings. Like I do have travel recording things, and you would take them. I could still do voiceover if I would go back on tour or something
uh,
like that. You can
yeah,
still
yeah.
do, which is as you have demonstrated,
Yep,
and you have shown, which is incredible, right? To be like, "Oh, okay, I'm in a closet, and this is
yep.
what I'm gonna do." But I have all the right things, and
Yeah.
so I think that would, yeah, I just didn't even know about it until I got to Los Angeles.
Because I think in high school, it seemed, at least in my high school, the only path for music and people who like to act was musical theater. And it makes sense those 2 things go hand in hand,
Yeah,
but, nobody told me pop music was really a viable career or songwriting or anything
I
else.
didn't know that.
And it doesn't mean I
No,
didn't love it, I loved it, but I just
yeah.
wonder, yeah, if other people had said, "Hey, there's voiceover." So then when did voiceover come into
Oh,
the picture?
I think that's true. I think I feel like there's that book of, like, what they didn't tell you if
Yeah.
you went to college, and film wasn't even introduced to me in college until the last year when I realized, that I was like one of the teachers said, like, "No one's gonna at least you have film, people will remember you, like, because 'cause it'll be archived, but theater, you only get to see it once," and I was like,
Uh-huh.
and so I was like, "What? No one
Yeah.
would remember me." Um, but again, I so that's that was this my senior year, I switched into film, more of a focus, but then obviously getting the tour. So, when I
Wow.
moved to Los Angeles, I, uh, got introduced to voiceover because this is I went to my acting teacher at the time, and I basically, like, after 6 months, like, had that, pamphlet of like, I think, like VO recording sounds. What is that? It was like something. I had like a hard copy of like 2 pamphlets of like where to go or like what should you do? Like here's my improv. I had like an improv
Oh,
pamphlet of
yes.
like here's the studios, and then I had like a voiceover pamphlet, and I was like, so what else should like what else should I add into this? And
Yes.
she's like, do you want to make any money? And I was like, yeah.
Yep.
And she said, then you should go into voiceover.
Ha!
And she's like, it might take you longer, but the
Uh,
longevity of it and it will pay off. So,
Thank
so
you, kind
honestly,
stranger.
that's just what literally that's how I made my decision was
That's
like that
unbelievable.
moment. And she was like, okay, let's start here. Or she's like, you should take this class with these people. And then I just threw myself into classes. Um,
Wow.
yeah. And again, but I was at that moment, it
Mm.
was, I'm thinking to myself, I it was before I had kids. It was
Huh.
before I really got married. I mean, I was taking care of, like, me and, like, dating.
Yes, it's a
So, like,
lovely
all
time.
right, right? So all my money was going to me.
Yeah.
So I I'm throwing myself into classes every night where I could go, or every week I could just switch into different
Oh,
workshops
yeah.
and different people. So
Every night of the week, I know. We were
right.
crazy back then.
Right, and that's but again, it wasn't in a booth, it wasn't on my
Mhm.
computer, we had to go in. You had to
Yeah.
sit through those 3-hour classes. You had to,
Mm.
but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But have go in and learn what that means to be in front of a mic, have an engineer your sounds, and then have a
Mhm.
teacher. Like, learning right there was probably the best training because then you got an experience of what it all takes, and
Mm.
I think now with some of my students who come in, I mean, I'm all those people, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm engineering, I'm making your sound in my booth, and we're recording and directing at the same time. And
Yes.
so I encourage sometimes to be like, but go to class. Like, go
Yeah.
experience what anybody else is doing because whether you like it or not, you're gonna learn something.
Yeah. When you said clients or students, are you recording for people or what business aside of
Yeah.
many facets is that?
It's so funny. I think that, I love one-on-one training, right? And
Yeah.
vocal coaching, which you and I have done before. And I think so sometimes there are younger kids, who are I'm gonna say I have a lot of, like, people who have auditions that they come to me for voiceover. They're like, "Okay, I have this audition. Can you help me record?" And we can send it in.
That's
I have, like,
amazing.
people who can come in and be like that's, like, for voiceover. Then I have, like, singing, right? I still have some singing students who come in, and then I have some acting students who come in. And it again, it goes like this, and it also depends on my working schedule as well,
Yeah.
and that is a gift to be like, I don't have time or I do have time, and,
Yeah.
I have some littles, but I have, like but that's exciting when and again, you
You're
said
doing so
something
many
too
things.
before of, like, voiceover what I also have found in this industry, voiceover people are nice. And I hate
Yes.
to use that, like, first grade word of nice, but, like,
No, absolutely.
but they should be kind, and
Yeah.
really that's a nice part of the industry where right, if I'm not right for it, if I'm not right for this part and you're right for this part, I'm gonna
Mhm.
call you or refer you. "Oh, did you know who this person is? Yeah, by the way, like, have you heard this person? They're
Yeah.
better. You should do what" and, like, I've had people, like, even my neighbor, like, needed he's like, "Oh, I need this, like, really deep voice for, like, a really funny spot," and I was like,
Mhm.
"Yeah, have some" right? That's the
Certainly
industry.
not me.
Right, certainly not me.
Yes.
Right. Um, and he's such a funny guy. But
Same.
you should that's I have found that part in the voiceover industry, at least for me, that no one is hesitant to refer other people. We are
Mm.
always being like, yeah, there's this job. Why
Yeah.
not have somebody else fill that spot?
Yeah.
And I think that that is also partially why it's such because it's really just about your voice, it's not about
Yeah.
anything else, and it's about
Yeah.
what's coming across the mic. So you take that element of like, "Oh, they look this way, they look"
Mm.
whatever. You've gotta make all of that come across through your
Yes.
voice, and, so I think that I enjoy coaching like that one-on-one because you can see the growth of somebody and
Huh.
get excited when they reach again, especially with singing, like, when someone gets past something that's so hard or they feel that sensation of like, "Oh my gosh, I hit that note. That's
Yeah.
what it's supposed to sound like," and you see that excitement, like, that brings me great joy.
Yeah. I have also gone to Lindsay for voice lessons, and you help people exactly like you're saying, break barriers. It's
Yeah,
funny when
break
you
the
have
barrier.
so many talents and so many amazing businesses and abilities that it's like, oh yeah, also this, if anyone's looking for this, you just have so many, and it's a good
Oh,
thing.
I know, but also, you know what's so funny? One of your vlogs that you sent, you're like, "Oh, I
Uh,
was featured at this in this like find your creative."
yes,
Yeah, right,
career.
right,
Yeah.
so I was like, I was actually curious because
Ah,
sometimes I feel this is like a blessing and a curse. It is, and you have the
mhm.
same issue, I think, because you are so talented in so many
Same.
areas, and
Yeah.
you've trained in so many areas, and you're like, "Okay, but where do I fit in
Yeah.
to all of this?" And so, that is hard because
Yeah.
I can go right, as I just explained to you in the 17 things that I write, I'm always like, "Do, do, 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 do."
Yeah.
Um, it's hard to be like, "Okay, but what about just this? Am I
Yeah.
giving if I just do this, am I giving up this? And
Yeah.
if I just do this, am I" that's where I struggle.
Yeah.
So, because I and same, like,
Because you're
it
still doing on camera too, right?
yeah, and
Yeah.
I
And you're
wanna help
amazing at
people.
it.
So if someone's like, "Oh,
Mhm.
hey, could do you do that? Oh, could I come?" Right? And I'm like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
sure." Right, but I have look, I have a very active family. I have 2
Yeah.
boys who play like they're in the major leagues, and, so we just
Aw.
just play all the teams, and they know what I do, and they like that
Yeah.
kinda stuff too, but they don't do any of it.
Yeah.
So, I think that's the purpose
But
of it.
they're doing everything else.
As they're
I
doing everything.
also okay, so then you were taking these classes. How did you
Mhm.
get your first voiceover agent? Because I feel like that's the thing.
Oh,
Everybody is like,
totally.
"I need that. How do
Oh,
I get it?"
you know what's crazy? Okay, so it still goes back to because I just had an agent night a couple weeks ago,
Huh.
and she was really informative. She's with one of the top people,
Uh,
uh, and um and she was like, "Look, it does still go back to your demo, right? So there's a couple of things that how you get in, and
mhm.
so you do need." You need a demo and you need a
Yep.
commercial demo, and the commercial demo is just what we're doing right now, right?
Yep.
Talking about like the light or whatever, or we're at a
Mhm.
party or whatever that is. It's so that they still listen to that. They
Yes.
still listen to the commercial demos. And if you are interested in animation, you have to put a demo together.
A
Because it's
separate animation demo,
separate, and
exactly.
and they do,
Yep.
and they have to be separate because, like I said before, everything has this there is a separate genre for voiceover
Mhm.
stuff. But if you're like,
Mhm.
"You know what? I just want even to get into narration and
Mhm.
audiobooks," then work on that first. But they
Totally.
still come back to the commercial stuff because at least that's, like because there's so much of it,
Yeah.
even if you don't book it, there's so much of it that comes in that
Yeah.
they're gonna have that. So that's the
Yeah,
thing. I
agents
would
wanna
also
see that no matter what.
yeah, put something together because really just like an on camera, they wanna see you're real because they wanna see what you look like on camera. Sometimes
Mhm.
it has nothing to do with like, "Oh god, but I didn't book that series and I didn't book this." No, they just wanna see what you look like. Like,
Yeah.
what is
Yeah.
your type and where can I put you? And that's the same way with your voice. So
Yeah.
take your ego out of it and
Yeah.
just do the work and put your demo together.
Yeah.
Um, and do it well.
Yeah.
Don't do a demo until you're ready, and they say that over and over, but really they're right.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely, and know
um
that you're going to the right person too, because
yeah.
especially in Hollywood, there are
Oh,
people who are gonna be like, "I can do it for you,"
yeah.
and apparently that's what they sound like.
Words to no, but they do.
Yeah,
'Cause I've because I've met a few.
yeah,
But they
we
yes,
both
or
have
talk
been
to
booted,
people
I'm
who
sure.
have been in the industry or who have made the
Mhm,
demos and be like, "Who did you use? Who did
yeah,
you like?" Talk to people. I think you had a great, suggestion that I read before from you that, like, same thing, like, if you study the right people and if like, "Oh,
mhm,
like, who's working? Who do I sound like? Or who do I really like what's happening?" Find
mhm,
do some digging and be like,
yeah,
what's working for them? Can that
yeah,
work for me? Like, use the
success leaves breadcrumbs, yes.
yeah, use the
Yeah,
mentors. So I think so yes, the demo thing is still in existence. As for an agent, so my first I would look at it depends on where you are,
mhm,
living
yeah,
in the world, but there are so many regional agents, right?
yes,
And
that's the
start
benefit.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah. Start there. My Atlanta agent has been with me I've been doing this for, like, 10 years, and she was my first agent.
wow,
And they took me on I mean, I made my demo and I had and now here's another thing too. If you make a demo with somebody who has connections that can
mhm,
refer you, like, "Oh, you know what? After we make this demo, I'm gonna check in with my casting agent, or I'm gonna check
mhm,
in with this agency," and has that can get you in that way too, that is a
Yeah.
great way, and that's how I got in for my Atlanta was my fir with the first demo I made. He was like, after we finished, he was like, "I'm gonna send it to my Atlanta people,"
Wow.
and that so there that was that step,
Huh.
and she's been amazingly patient because where I was there and where I am now is like, leaps and bounds, hopefully, um,
Right?
and so they were willing to be like, "Yeah,
Hopefully, yes.
she's new, but that's okay." Like that everybody has to start somewhere,
Yeah.
and so again,
Why Atlanta? Sorry, I
because
cut you off.
no, that's good because Atlanta was the next spot. That was just, I think, his immediate connection.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
so that was just he was like, "Yeah, I'll send you to her
Ah,
first."
I see.
And she was able to send me things, right away.
Gotcha.
Um,
You were
and
living in LA.
I was living in LA,
So
and
that's another benefit of voiceover.
yeah, and that
Yeah.
was the thing because the LA and New York people are gonna be harder to
Yeah.
get into, and that's okay too. But and
Absolutely.
so that would be make a demo when you're ready, but, like,
Mm.
it's okay to just keep practicing and keep listening to
Mhm.
yourself until you're really ready to put a finished product together, because
Totally.
once you send that demo and some agent signs you, they are trusting that you know how to do this,
Yes.
right? So you
Conduct
can't just
yourself professionally. Yes. In
right,
all the
so
ways. Yes.
yeah, so, like, for on camera, I'm not gonna be like, "Oh, I know how to scuba dive," and then I book it, and then, like, give me a tank and be like, "I don't know how to turn this thing on." Right? So, like,
There are
just
people, though, who
I know.
definitely do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, I can
I
horseback ride, I can drive a stick shift. I don't know how
uh-huh.
they work it out in the end
I
because
know. Be right,
honesty
like,
always comes first.
it's okay to fudge a little bit, but also, but, like, it's
Yeah.
like a life and death situation,
Yes. No,
Um,
no.
I would say too so right, let's walk through these steps because I get asked this a lot. You're right.
Yeah,
Is that
right?
take right. So you made your demo. Okay,
Yeah.
so now you're ready to shop it around. Okay,
Mhm.
so also talk to people who will be willing to refer you because referrals
Yeah.
are your best way in at this point, right? Who
Yeah.
will go to bat for you.
Yeah.
And also not also be afraid to be like, here's their demo, but like here's who they are as a person. Like they're
Yes.
so easy, they're directable, they're
Yeah.
like a good human because really they don't
All we
want to do
want.
all the other stuff,
Yeah.
right? Um
We want good
okay.
humans in our lives.
We'll just
Yeah.
keep trying. The other people I would say so Atlanta was there. I ended up getting somebody in LA
Mhm.
within a year. Like it wasn't like, "Ooh, right away."
Yeah, it took me a while too.
It took me a while.
Yeah.
And it took me a while to also and it's okay to switch if they don't work out for you.
Yeah.
It's okay to and if somebody but it also if somebody's willing to give you a trial period,
Mm.
great.
Yeah.
Like it's okay, right? That's what we're
Yeah.
doing. I
Absolutely.
would say the other places to look are, I mean, Chicago has a reputation for being, they like the people who are in Chicago, and
Yeah.
and so Chicago is a tough market. It's a great
Mm.
market. Uh, I have not broken into that market, to be
Uh,
honest,
uh,
and I haven't pushed very hard for it. But
yeah.
people who are my connections, who are the big agencies,
Uh.
it just, it's kind of like, okay,
Actually, I didn't know that. That's very interesting, Chicago, because you would think New York and LA would have more of that, I don't
right,
know,
and
closed
there.
door kind of
Yes,
policy.
same.
Yeah.
Yeah, so then there's, like there's some people in Texas, that I have
Mhm.
that are pretty good, and then there's, like, so you kinda, like, go to different coasts, right? There's, like, the
Yeah.
Northeast, and then there's, like, the Northwest, where there's, like, people in Denver, and there's people
Yeah.
in, um, even in, like, I was gonna say San Francisco, you
Yeah.
know,
You can
check
have
out
an LA agent and you can have a San Francisco
yeah,
agent.
and that is okay. You just can't
Yeah.
have some people are picky about New York and LA. You can
Mm.
have separate people sometimes. Um,
Mhm.
and then but some people will be like, "Okay, but you're LA and we are bi-coastal, so you can't
Mm.
have somebody else in New
Yeah,
York."
or it's a discrepancy of like, okay, but if several agents get this, how are you
Right.
deciding? And I know, I mean, my New York agent like called me on the phone recently to talk about this, and he said, really, people, there's no set way. It's either you have your home agent, and that's your
Yeah.
jurisdiction, your decision, or you can say whoever gets this in my inbox first. And so everyone has different ways,
Yeah.
to my
Yeah.
knowledge, right, of dealing
Yeah.
with this, and
Yeah,
it can
absolutely.
get muddy if you don't establish it at the onset. Yeah. So
Right.
you have to be communicative. It's all of like the basic principles of good
I know. Yeah.
business. It's communication, it's kindness, it's reliability,
Right.
basic things that sometimes, might
Yeah.
fall by the wayside for others.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and absolutely, and I think
Mhm.
that and knowing who you are, right? If
Yeah.
somebody and it's okay to say, like, that's not that character is out of my wheelhouse. Like,
Yeah.
I'm willing to work on it if you wanna listen to it, but I'm gonna tell you, like, this is I am not gonna be your crotchety
Yeah.
troll creature that is coming out from the lagoon, like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna do my version of it,
Yeah.
but it's also okay for you to be like, "Next one, let's do
Yeah.
this."
How did
Uh,
you finally link up with an LA agent? Was it through knowing people and referrals?
yeah,
Yeah. It's all
yeah.
good friends and being a good person.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So, right, so, like, talk to people, that's what I'm saying, like, if you wanna talk to people,
Mhm.
like, it's hard in LA because everything is so isolated because we're always
Mhm.
in our cars, where New York, at least you're passing and can meet up.
True,
They always
true.
say that, right? So you really have to make another effort to do this. It's like another
Yeah.
job, and people
Yeah.
say, like, to be like, "Oh, right," and an authentic job, right?
Yes.
There's authentic connection between somebody, right? And so,
Yes. I used to
you
think networking was like a dirty word, disingenuous. It felt so manipulative, like I had to try to get something. And then I was just like, oh, wait, it's just liking people and liking talking to people and like making feel like people feel good. And
yeah.
that's networking, you know?
Right, and not
That's
everyone is
fun.
like look, not everyone is like us, and that's okay,
Yeah.
and but that's again, that's just
Yeah.
who we are.
Yeah.
So, I
Mm.
think that, let's see, I started with TGMD at the
Mm.
time, and that was a referral
I remember that.
because I yes, it was a referral. I was like, "Who am I?" I'm, like, trying to piece my pieces
Yeah.
together. But also it worked out in my favor because I that agency happened to be 5 minutes from my house. I
Huh.
had just had my first baby. And I didn't know what happened to me. And I was carrying a baby in the car seat and, like,
Mm.
plunking them down and recording in their booth. I would go into the office.
Oh,
So that
oh,
was a
I love
fortunate
those
event.
days.
Me too. And so I would
Yeah.
go into the office, I'd get my have my audition, I would schedule it. If I had to take the
Yeah.
kid, I took the kid,
Uh,
and it was that was a gift, right?
yes,
So somebody went
yes,
in, got to do your thing, they would engineer it and send it off, and you walked away. Now
yeah,
they're
that's fun.
completely different, right? That was like I'm, like, studying the Stone Ages.
New world.
Um,
Yes.
okay, so TGMD was a gift, that was
Mm,
and then they all kind of went then the agents went
yeah,
different ways, and I moved over to Vox at the time.
uh,
Again, they're another LA agent. I stayed with them for 5 years.
yeah.
I went there, and I built a lot of really good relationships there as well, and but then I got into promos, and so
Mm,
there was a promo agent who I knew through the guy who did my demo, and so I
mm,
went with him. We started talking. I had they signed me across the board, so I
mm,
stayed there for about 5 years. I had my second baby there,
mm.
not the opposite, but close by.
Yeah.
Um, and they helped me get, um, kind of like hip pocket some different management, companies for voiceover,
Uh,
specifically for promos and for trailers.
uh,
Like it's a not there's not a lot of women, who
whole
really
different
do all
world.
the trailer stuff, and
Yeah,
I'm even married to an editor who does the trailers, which also have changed in that
yeah,
side of things too, right? So, they had a booth, so if I would but that was a further away, it's like 20 to 30-minute drive through LA to get to
yeah,
go in and record. If I happened to be on the West Side, I would
uh,
stay there,
oh, and
but
it's all the way on the left side, okay.
I built my booth. Yeah,
Yes.
that's just so far.
No, yeah,
But
you are.
that's when I built my booth
Uh,
because the turnaround is so fast for voiceover. You have to people, especially for sometimes things for promos, they want things turned around so fast, and it's like, who's gonna
mm,
get in there first, right?
mm,
So, have the equipment set up. So, again, actually, Kaylee,
yeah.
did we I had I my husband built, like, a fold out thing that would fold around, and I think
Yep.
I 2
And
years
then
ago.
I purchased it. It's so funny because when we were moving from Kansas, we were trying to get rid of more and when we moved from LA to renovate the Airstream to go to Kansas, I got rid of so much stuff, and of course, I was keeping my voiceover panels, and then we were leaving Kansas and finally moving into the Airstream, we were kinda like, "Alright, like, should we get rid of the voiceover panels?" And I put them for sale on Facebook Marketplace, and people responded, and I was just like, "Nope, nope, never mind." Like, they are too near and dear to my heart, they are well-constructed voiceover panels. We will have a bigger place after this Airstream. I will need them again. So they're still in Kansas. My poor mother-in-law is holding on to them because I could not sell them.
Oh my gosh, no
Yeah.
way. Are you
Mhm.
serious?
And they're
You're so
infused with that good Lindsay vibes and energy. So
Oh,
like,
I
not
love
one of
that. Well,
those. Yeah.
that's so amazing,
Worked
but
well. And
really, yes,
now this
because
state of the art booth that you're in. Look
Oh,
at
I know.
you.
Well, right, this was like
Fantastic.
my what do they call it? That like that gift, like where you're supposed to give your when
Push
you're having
present?
your baby. Yeah, yeah, my
No
push present.
way.
This was my booth, right? Like,
Aw.
because I right, this is where I am, you guys. Like everybody, like
Ah,
it's still about me. It's still about your career. You have to keep going, right?
yes.
It's that important.
Yes.
So these panels, yes, are built,
Oh,
and they actually are the way it is are hung. So should we ever have to move, I can take them with me. But
amazing.
I yeah. So
Are they the gray ones behind you?
yeah. So
Oh, they look
there's
so
these.
good.
They do.
It just
Yes,
shows a
it was like
normal wall.
I know, I actually
Um,
they're like they look like doors, but you hang
yeah.
them up, and then this material is like, what is this material? It was somebody had referred helped us, like, find the right material, and then it's stuffed with the insulation is actually recycled jeans, like recycled blue jeans,
Oh my
um,
goodness.
that you in it but I still have the foam on my back door as well, and
Ah,
then I have a light to, tell people to
I had
not disturb.
no idea. That looks so I mean, from here, it just looks like gray walls, and there's
Yeah,
insulation and all those things.
yeah.
You guys together are quite a team. It's incredible.
Aw, thanks. I know. We are. I mean, most of the time.
Yes, and
Yeah,
supportive. I have another question about promo because I know we have like a couple more minutes. How do you, because I know we were talking about, you gave a really great nugget for people. Commercial, these days, it's no longer that salesy pushing thing. It is just talking like we're talking right now. So then
mhm,
how do you translate that to promo? Was that like a different, obviously a different skill?
right, and
Yeah.
went back to, um I went back to class.
Mm,
Actually, I went back to some people to study specifically for promos, and look, it's a male-dominated side of the business.
yeah.
It just is, and I don't know why it is and why it still is. I mean,
Why
I
it has to
why
be.
like, why I question the
Yeah,
world on so many other things,
I
but
know.
so
Yeah.
tell
Yep.
but, the people but also, like, my voice right now, again, sometimes people, when I think they think promos, they think, like, dark and sexy, and you'll hear them like, "Oh, the sultry," or whatever, and
Yeah.
there's yes, and those
Yeah.
women are amazing, and they
Yeah.
do that, and so, okay, so do I fit into there, or where does my voice fit in? And what
Hmm.
can I do? I can do the other stuff, like the promos between the bachelors, or, like, the ABC,
Mhm.
or even the kid promos, so, like, there's
Oh,
so
yeah.
many other options, and so that was, like, a great journey for me to be like, um again, it was referred from my agent at Vox who was like,
Um,
"Hey, this is who we like for the demos. He takes some classes." So we
huh.
did it virtually. We've tried to find the copy that best sold my voice, and
Mm.
so
Yeah, you'd be perfect
that
for Nickelodeon stuff too.
I will say the promo demo is different, of course, from everything else,
Mm.
but they that's more heavily listened to than a commercial demo when you're just getting into promos. They will like, that's your big calling card for promo stuff. So when I was
Hmm.
trying to find new agencies or send out my promo stuff, like, that demo cost me a lot of money,
I bet.
and, is very specific. It's a little bit shorter than a commercial
Huh.
demo as well, and the people that my teachers that I ended up going with really
Mhm.
helped me believe in me, to be honest,
Mm.
believe in my voice that I could find a fit into what the normal promo genre is, where you're typically listening to, like, oh, like, the trailers, like, coming up next. It's not that,
Right.
but how can I make it that and also get heard, you
Yeah.
know? So if you're like that's another quick thing, just I think if people honor the specs,
Yep.
but also make it yours. So
Yeah.
if I'm gonna say something a little sarcastic, so someone who's listening for the first 5 seconds is, like, scrolling, scrolling, and makes them stop and be like,
Yes.
"Wait, what did she do?
That's different.
That's different, and it
Yeah.
still works. Okay, maybe I'll put her in the folder, and I'll go back and, like,
Mm.
change folders," right?
Yeah.
Always like this I have, like, this visualization of, like, casting people being like I mean, some people actually do it, like,
Yes.
"Here's your casting like, here's all the files, I'm gonna move you to
Yeah.
this file, and move you to this one." You wanna keep
That's a
moving,
good visual to manifest too. Move me to the file, move me to the other
right?
file.
Like,
Yeah, the
yeah,
final
there's a
file.
good casting person, but I think
Yeah.
that, and I also like it because that's my energy, like, my
Mhm.
promo again, like, promos are fast and
Yeah.
most of them, and are fast, and I love introducing people,
Yeah.
and I think that that was exciting for me to be like, "Oh, I like this." And
That
I
fits
think
you for sure.
Yeah, and you know what that feeling
Yeah.
is, and
Yeah.
and audiobooks to me I love to read, and I went down
Mhm.
that path of learning to audiobooks, and then I walked out of that path, and I thought, "This isn't for me.
Yeah.
I'm just
I
gonna read
tried. I
things."
mean, yeah, you gotta try everything, right? And they had me on file. I never booked a single thing, and I don't get why, you know? It's
Yeah,
just
and I do, but
yeah, but it's
it's a
also
lot
the
that's a lot
training
of
that
work.
you have that you keep coming back to, and that's so important. Like,
I think
yeah,
so.
I can put my voice on something one time, but am I devoting the 10,000 hours of energy to it? No, and other people that are gonna be more seasoned.
Yeah,
Of course.
absolutely, and I
Yeah.
think that really you know what, Kaylee, I think that actually really
Mm.
goes all of this really stems from, um, being a being a trained singer, right?
Mhm.
Going back to that awareness, knowing what to do how to throw my voice around,
Yeah.
how to also not injure my voice, where it all comes,
Yes.
right? Which you and I have talked about too, about, like I mean, vocal health has a whole 'nother
Yep.
podcast, which you should listen to,
So true.
but again, it's like it's I do because I can go like, it's your breathing, it's your placement,
Mm.
it's where, and we're so physically of where our voice sits, like, does it sit in your mask? Does it sit up here?
Mm.
Where and that translates to character work if you're doing
Totally.
animation, and that translates into your singing if you're still singing in character,
Yes.
you know how to stay there because of the singing training and because of the
Yeah.
vocal stuff.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
you also coached me, you probably remember this, for my singing animation reel, and we had to do all those different characters and
Yeah,
sing in those different
yeah, yeah,
characters, and I
and
still use that to this day, and I
same,
love it.
and I think
Yeah.
that that's actually partially also why I got into voiceovers because 'cause you're like, "Oh, I can sing, and I can sing in a
Yes.
character," and so I do that is also if you have an animation reel and someone says
Yep.
like, "Oh, I sing," and you wanna throw in a little thing, absolutely throw it
Yeah.
on the end, and then if you're like, "You know what? I can do a couple other things," then make a
Mm.
whole reel about it. That
Yeah.
is okay because these days I
Mm.
feel like people go through bullet points, right? If somebody sends me things, I'm gonna click on like, "Oh, this is" make it specific, right?
Yes.
Make it goes back to the specificity, but
Yeah.
listening wise, like, "Oh, here's the commercial, here's animation. Oh, she sings to animation? Great. Oh, she
Yeah.
does this like, this is what she sounds like to read a book? Fine."
Yep.
Having those little things and now there's one more quick nugget that I was gonna give you,
Yeah.
that the professional who I work with,
Uh-huh.
um, sometimes who there's a thing called a natural read that is going out around right now. I don't know if you
Mhm.
where you can put it on the casting sites, like, I think Actors Access is still,
Oh.
but they want it's called a natural read demo, like you and I are doing right now,
Yeah.
just kind of, like, talking back and
How we
forth.
speak.
Or, like but again, very specific or, like, okay, one of my characters is like a cop,
Mm.
so or like a or being a detective, but again, so I have that kind of language. So the natural demo is just that, and it's used for dubbing.
Natural read, I thought you were talking about conversational because that's, so trendy right
Yeah.
now, but
Yeah.
it's different. The natural read
It's different.
is interesting. So the
Yeah.
difference
No.
is you're even more natural than
It's
conversational?
not it's not as commercial, like, the commercial
Ah,
read is for advertising purposes,
yes,
and this is just for dubbing purposes,
dubbing.
so if you were just doing your everyday, like, so if someone's like, "Oh, there's this character, she's the mom
Mm.
of this, but now they speak in Spanish, can I have her speak in English?" Like, that kinda thing. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so
I have
that's
read
new to
those
me.
auditions, never booked them, but that's okay,
I know.
It's these different arts, and even within voiceover, so many different arts, like you're saying.
Yes.
Okay, I know I need to let you go. How does voiceover translate to starting a YouTube show about
Oh,
gluten-free cooking? I
I
love it, and it
know.
doesn't have to be related, but it's you. That's how it connects,
Yeah,
and so
yeah,
Lindsay has
it
this
does.
beautiful it's on TikTok, it's on Instagram, and it's on YouTube,
Yeah.
and probably more places, but you can tell me,
Nope.
called G
Nope.
Free It, the letter
Yeah.
G,
Mhm.
Free It.
Mhm. Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
thanks.
Mm,
I know this is my new adventure.
yeah.
It's happened in the last year. The brief thing is that I got diagnosed with celiac after I had my second child,
Mm,
and then had to, like, revamp my whole diet and revamp
yes.
everything, which it came out of nowhere, and that's kind of what happens. So basically, it means you have to live gluten-free. Some people have it in a serious condition. It's considered autoimmune, but it's
Uh-huh.
just a new thing. So the point is, I I started getting as I was learning and as I was learning what was working and not, people would ask me like, "Oh, what was that recipe? How did you do it?" And so because I kept same thing, like, it just became one of those. I kept telling people, like, "Oh, you just have to substitute this, and then it's gluten-free."
Yes.
They were like, "Oh, great." So it goes back into, um,
Well, when
helping.
people start asking you for something, yeah, you start to
Yeah,
like, that's
yeah,
why how to get into voiceover. That's the question I
right,
got the most. Okay, I need to answer it,
right, I need to
And
answer
so
it,
you're
and that's
doing that and helping
yeah,
people.
and again, right, so it just it's one. I mean, it's entertainment, so I have to fulfill my side of, like, being
Yeah.
entertained and wanting to do it, so, like, some things are made just for entertainment purposes, to be funny, and or to answer, my preteen being like, "I'm so tired of hearing about it." Um, and so then that just gives me fuel to the fire,
The
and
preteen.
then
Okay.
I know,
Just let
and
that
then
go by.
recipes, right, but I think the goal was to be like,
Mm,
it's not as hard as you're gonna make it. Like,
okay.
let me help you, show you what all you have to do, so you don't have to make this, like, all encompassing and
Yeah.
interviewing with your life. I think it was just the simple recipes of, like, all you have to do is use gluten-free soy sauce
That's
and put it in,
amazing.
or all you
Okay.
have to do is use this, and so that is what became of the show, um, and that became of, like, what the cooking show was, and
Uh,
so I think that, and then through the voiceover, I
hmm.
also love to do on camera stuff as well, so I was
Yeah.
like, "Okay, let's do both." I just, figured out how to do, like, this is so lame, but, like, it's like having a cooking reel and just using my voice over it, right?
Oh, smart,
So
smart, smart.
'cause some people just wanna
People
watch
love
it,
that.
right? Some people just
Yeah.
all those things, and other people wanna watch, "Oh, I want you to teach me how to do it." Right?
Yeah.
Or walk me through the steps and so I can follow along.
Oh,
So yeah, it really has. It's actually been
I'm so proud of
a
you.
year of it. And it's a whole new community of other
Yeah.
people too, of, like, who what I this the last thing about it is that I have met so many women, and
Yeah.
what I also love about this is that it really goes back to so many moms who have had this happen to their kids or to themselves and had to figure out a new product. So a
Mm.
lot of the products I feature or that I use are women-owned businesses
Ah,
and women who have figured this out. And so
that's
that
amazing.
is enlightening to me, and that is that's exciting. I
Um,
love to watch how we've no don't underestimate a woman, like,
hey,
ever.
hey, hey. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just we're gonna figure it out. They've made it
Mhm.
work, and they're successful, and I love watching the entrepreneurship, and women
Yeah.
supporting women in all of this has been
Uh,
just, like, it's just so exciting, and so I am your cheerleader from afar, and again,
hey.
your success as well, and I think that that's, it just shows you what we all do, and
Yeah.
your story will lead you to different ways and different
Yeah.
adventures,
And then you triumph over adversity. You made
yeah,
it work. You didn't just make it work for your family, now you're helping other people because
right,
of your journey, which is
right,
incredible. That's
right,
how
and
do you know who Amy Lacey is?
oh, I don't.
She created, cauliflower crust pizza. I don't remember the brand name, and that's terrible, but she, like, is
Yeah,
the creator, and it's in all these stores, and now she has, like, I think $1 billion company or something
right,
because she
because
wanted to they had, like, family pizza night every Friday night, and then all of a sudden they couldn't because she developed, a gluten intolerance, and then she created a product out of it. So,
right,
why
exactly.
not
Yes,
you?
why not you?
Why not all of
Right,
us?
go back to
Yeah.
I think your mantras are inspiring, are
Thank you so much.
connective,
Thank you.
and I do, I just think they're, like, make it there's, like, a great quote that's like, make it so specific, it's
Mm.
universal." And
Oh.
I, like, really it's like, go back to that a lot
Huh.
because I that's what it is. If
Yeah,
somebody leans in and has that connection with you about, like,
yeah,
"Oh, wait," and, "Oh, they're approachable," or, "Oh, whatever, that's
yeah,
me too," that's there it is. There's your
yeah.
connection.
You're building your empire. I'm so proud of you. Okay,
Building
how can people find you?
Yes, I
Yeah,
know.
said it. I said it.
I know. So yeah, so what you said before, if we could,
Mm,
the gluten-free is at, like the at symbol,
yep.
G-Freeit, G-F-R-E-E-I-T, all one word, and that is all across the social. It's the same
Mm.
thing. Lindsay McDonald is my professional name.
Yeah,
You can
yeah.
find me on Instagram. On that is this is at the official Lindsay McDonald
The
because it's still
official.
official. Yep, no one else is taking my name.
Good.
But ironically, you'll go by under G Freeit. So
Mm.
Gamache is my married name. So you
Oh,
may
yeah.
find me Lindsay Gamache, which is just like ganache,
I
the
never
chocolate.
made that connection.
Yeah,
Your married last name and gluten. And
yeah,
G free it has no hyphens. It's just G free it.
yeah,
Got
exactly.
it. Okay, for
Yeah,
people
thanks for
listening.
yeah, no, thank you for asking. But also
Find Lindsay.
I know, right. But I think that if I the biggest walkaway, with all of this is right.
Yeah.
Listen to what is being asked of you from
Mm.
other people. Be like, "Oh, that's it." And
Yeah.
also, it's okay to ask questions. Don't ever feel like people are like, "I don't know how to start this," or "Where do I start?" or "How do I be?" Like, you've had some great inspiration, your topics, and I think
Mm.
through your newsletters of like you
Mm.
find the people that you wanna be like,
Yeah.
and that's why that helps them too.
There's a
Maybe they
reason that you're jealous of those people.
yeah,
So, okay, lean into that and try to follow
yeah,
that. Because
yeah,
not everyone is jealous of everyone else. I do
yeah,
not
and
care for
look
baseball. Your sons do, you know?
I know, right? This place
Good for 'em.
that I'd be doing, every day, every day, every day. Um, but I will say, and if anybody,
Yeah.
and as you are about to venture onto your second
Yes, I
baby,
am. Yeah.
it's exciting, but like, and what you see is the product of how much hard work you have put in on the out
Yeah.
right behind the scenes. There's
Yes.
so much that goes on behind the scenes that I think there's sometimes people need to be aware of. And
Yes.
I have, yes, I'm very fortunate to have a very supportive partner through
Yeah.
all of this, but but getting I don't always have time to be in class. I don't always
Yeah.
have money to be in class,
Yeah.
and their schedules and their needs, sometimes come before mine.
Yeah.
So, right?
That
Like
balance.
it's not all about them.
No.
I'm not gonna right? But at the
Yeah.
same time, I have chosen to have a family, so I have to
Yeah.
make it fit in,
Yeah.
right? And
But it's
so
also the hard work. I like that you're pointing that out because there's so much that people don't see. I mean, how many
mm,
auditions does it take to get one booking? My God, how many licks to
right,
the center of the Tootsie Pop for
right.
the 90s kids in the house? But really, if people
Literally,
could see how many I haven't gotten to then finally get, oh, I got
right.
one finally. I
Yeah,
don't know,
and again, if you're
15,
up right, or and if
75.
yeah, and if you're up at, like people don't know that what time you're up in the morning because
Yeah.
somebody's on the New York or on a different coastline, and they have to have you record, or you have to stay up late
Yep.
to do this, or you have to stay up late to put on makeup to do an
Yeah.
audition, and you're tired. Like, I think that it's not just some people are gifted, and that is
Yeah.
amazing to have this turn around very fast, and
Totally.
there's a lot of us who are working professionals who are
Mm.
continuing to work that it may have taken a different path or different
Yeah.
years, longer years to get into.
Yeah.
So,
Insane.
don't give up. This is really what we wanna do, like,
Yeah.
it will find you.
Yeah. I love that.
It will find
Perfect
you,
parting words. All right. Well,
for
find
sure.
Lindsay McDonald, McDonald, and G Free It, letter G, Freeit, everywhere that socials are socialed. And thank you so much for
Thank
chatting. This
you.
was
This was
great.
so lovely. It was so nice to meet you.
So drop dead wonder who's that girl?
Hey, this is Caley Rose again, and if you want to learn even more about how to get into voiceover, I have a course out called How to Get Into Voiceover: My Secrets to Six-Figure Voiceover Success. You can learn more about how to get into voiceover, what you need, how to find that ever so elusive voiceover agent, how to book auditions, how to find jobs, and more. You can also learn more about our special guest down in the show description below. Check it out.
Hey, I'm Caley Rose, and thank you so much for watching my video. If you like what you saw, subscribe.